Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be talking about Jalen Ramsey and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because there's been a lot of speculation recently about where Jalen Ramsey could end up. If you guys did not know, a couple of weeks ago before the NFL draft, the Dolphins came out and said, hey, we are looking to trade Jalen Ramsey. And it seems like both sides are going to mutually agree to part ways here somewhere down the line this summer. So that has led a lot of media outlets and reporters alike to speculate on where Ramsey could end up. Nick Shook, writer from around the NFL, listed a few places that Ramsey could potentially end up. It is important to note, by the way, that the Rams have been heavily speculated to bring back Jalen Ramsey into the fold. Honestly, that wouldn't surprise me at all. In fact, I would probably say that is the most likely option. But I do want to go ahead and take a look, because one of the 5 teams that Nick Shook listed here was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I thought it'd be a fun exercise to really deep dive a little bit into this possibility and decide whether or not it would or would not make sense. So in this paragraph that Nick wrote here, the Bucs did add some young talent on offense. That's true. Emeka Egbuka was brought in. He's going to help out quite a bit. They did also bring back Ben Bredeson as well. Levante David was brought back. That was a great thing to see. Welcoming in key veterans on the defensive side, I'm not necessarily sure what that's in reference to, because in my head, the only veteran on the defensive side I know the Bucs brought in was Anthony Walker Jr. Yes, they re-signed some guys like Bryce Hall and Greg Gaines and stuff like that, but not really many other veterans, so to speak. So I'm not necessarily sure what Nick is talking about there, but a quick scan of the Bucs depth chart reveals one area in which they could use some more help: the secondary. We'll dive into that in a minute, but Nick says that Jamel Dean and Antoine Winfield Jr. reside as their best defenders. I would possibly argue that Zion McCollum at this point might be rated a little bit higher than Jamel Dean, but honestly, it's kind of, in some ways, it could be debatable and a coin flip in some people's minds. They have young talent at corner. Tyke Smith and Zion McCollum is ascending. I think that he's kind of already there. In my opinion, I think that McCollum, especially now that he's in a contract year, and Tyke Smith might be moving to safety, so Tampa Bay could probably use more help at safety than corner too, and considering Ramsey has previously expressed interest in transitioning to safety, Tampa Bay might be the perfect fit for him to make a switch and find a valued role with a contender. So I had to look this up, because I did not remember Jalen Ramsey ever saying that he wanted to transition to play safety, and apparently there was some articles in 2021 where Ramsey had talked about it. So I think that's where this mentality is coming from. So I looked it up. When Charles Woodson, because that's, as you guys can see in the article on the right here, emulating Charles Woodson and his move to safety. Charles Woodson made that change when he was 36 years old. Jalen Ramsey is 30 years old. He will be 31 years old by the end of the upcoming season. So I don't know how much longer Ramsey wants to play, but he would still be a few years away from making that transition like Charles Woodson. But you never know. I mean, guys can make it earlier. Ronnie Barber did that, where he transitioned to safety as well. So it's not just a guy like Charles Woodson. Ronnie Barber did the exact same thing as well. But to say that the Bucs need help at cornerback, and I am curious to, just in my head, it's did Nick Shook write this paragraph before the NFL draft? Because the Bucs just drafted Benjamin Morrison in round number 1, or in round number 2, sorry, he's a first round talent. And then they also drafted Jacob Parrish in round number 3. And whenever you couple those things with the Bucs and Todd Bowles specifically desire to play Tyke Smith more at safety, it doesn't seem like there's much room on this roster for Jalen Ramsey right now. I mean, you've also got Christian Izien at safety. You have Kayvon Merriweather, who started games at safety last year. You have a lot of different guys. Now, I think Ramsey would, if it did come out hey, he wants to be a safety this upcoming season, him, Antoine Winfield Jr., I think that the Bucs would probably just put Tyke Smith back at nickel at that point, and then you would have Zion McCollum as your 1, Jamel Dean as your 2, Tyke Smith as your nickel, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Jalen Ramsey as your safeties. That's an insane looking secondary, right? But it feels unnecessary, in my opinion, especially whenever you consider the contract that Jalen Ramsey is on. If you guys want to take a look over here, the 2025 season, Jalen Ramsey's age 31 year, his cap hit, folks, is $16 million. Let me go ahead and get that back up here. So here we go. $16 million is his cap hit. Now, there is a potential out of that contract after this year where you can release Ramsey if it wants to work with me here. Here we go. Where you can release Ramsey, and it looks like you would free up a very, very significant chunk of money, but you would also take on $18 million in dead cap as well. It just doesn't necessarily seem like the... Yeah, here we go. Like, you know, you would be freeing up, what, $7 million if you moved on from Ramsey after that point? It just doesn't seem like the best contract in the world. In fact, it's a very poor contract to take on, in my opinion, for a defensive back who's going to be 31, 32, 33, and 34 years old throughout the remainder of that contract, okay? Especially with the transition to safety, it just doesn't seem logical, whereas the Bucs could have a secondary of Zon McCollum at year 1, Jamel Dean at year 2, let's say Jacob Parrish or Christian Izien at your nickel cornerback. Then you have Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tyke Smith at safety. That seems like a very fine secondary, in my opinion. I really do believe that. In fact, the Bucs took those cornerbacks in part because I think they want to play Tyke Smith more at safety, right? So it just doesn't seem like there's a ton of room. Now, Jalen Ramsey's still a very, very good cornerback. I mean, a 76.9 overall grade in 2024, a 85.7 run defense grade, a 71.9 coverage grade. He is still very good, okay, especially after a down 2023 season. But it just doesn't seem logical for me. I don't think the fit is necessarily there, especially whenever you look at the current makeup and the current, rooms that the Bucs have at safety and cornerback. The contract certainly doesn't make sense. It's too expensive for a cornerback who's going to be over 30 years old at this point, who is possibly looking to transition to safety as well. You're not going to be paying 16 plus million. I mean, the Bucs are already paying that for one safety with Antoine Winfield Jr. Do you really want to be pouring that much capital into two starting safeties? In my opinion, no, right? Even if it would be like a really fun look for your secondary, just seems like it's too much, in my opinion. And then also you got to consider draft capital. What would it cost to get a guy like Jalen Ramsey? Now, since the Dolphins are point blank coming out and saying, hey, we want to move on from Jalen Ramsey, you got to think that trade price is going to be lower than what it would have been. I don't think it's going to cost anything crazy. I mean, if it costs you like a 5th or a 6th round pick, I could see some team doing it, but it has to be some team that needs cornerback help, okay? I mean, like the Ravens, you could probably still argue they need some cornerback help, maybe. I mean, it's interesting here, too. Like, Nick Shook did mention some of the cornerbacks that the Ravens drafted. Didn't mention Benjamin Morrison or mention Jacob Parrish or mention Tyke Smith moving to safety. So that's just interesting, in my opinion. It just seems like there's other teams that could make sense. I mean, and look, Nick Shook even mentions like, hey, the Dolphins could just keep him. But it seems like the Dolphins are in a pretty bleh type of situation with a super bloated contract, a cornerback over 30 years old who maybe will want to transition to safety. Like if the Dolphins said, hey, we'll take on some of this money to facilitate a trade, that I think that does make it more appealing, but I don't necessarily think Jalen Ramsey is a big need or should be a big need for Tampa Bay right now, especially whenever you just spent 2nd and 3rd round draft picks on cornerbacks and plan on moving your former 3rd round draft pick back to safety as well. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me on a handful of levels. So what do you guys think about all of this, about Jalen Ramsey, about the idea of him moving back to safety, his contract, trade compensation? I'd love to hear all your guys' thoughts and opinions about it down in the comment section below. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. And yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this one. But as always, guys, I will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.